Thank you again for coming to this tape. Boy in his Bible, Robert Hicks speaking. I do have to emphasise occasionally I am trying hard not to give you my understanding now, but to give you the fresh understanding of a boy discovering the Bible, part of his formative education in his 15th, 16th and 17th year. I found 1 Peter to be the most beautiful book, I think, that I'd read as a complete book in those early days. Right out. It seemed to be speaking to me as I began to write. Still a Pilgrim book, still a book written to lots of people in different areas, some of them where Peter may have been. He did seem to get out from Jerusalem eventually and go to places like Caesarea and then further afield, and became a kind of an evangelist of areas like the Apostle Paul. We don't have these records in quite the same way as we do of Paul. And maybe he wasn't a writer like Paul. Wesley Brothers, of which I had the privilege of seeing about, I think it was about 4,000 of their letters. And reading these letters, there was constantly going out by these people. Now, if they'd have lived in the days of Paul, all those letters, most of those letters would have been perished. Only the letters that had been copied and copied and copied would have preserved. And we only have 13 letters, of course, given to us of the Paul that we know of. There's no doubt that we might still find some more letters of the Apostle Paul, but that they would not be part of the sacred scriptures. But there may be interesting documents like some of the other documents we've found in more recent years. When you come to Peter, you can see he is thinking of individuals where Paul tended to think of groups. Paul seemed to have more of a global concept of Christianity, where Peter is concerned with individuals and talking to them as individuals. When you read Peter, he's talking to you. He's telling you that you might be scattered and there might be difficulty in both the epistles. There might be difficulties, there might be problems. But you've got an inheritance that's incorruptible. Around you might be things that are corrupting. There might even be tensions and goings on of wars taking place around you. There might be a academic on an academic scale, diseases going around. The world might be collapsing, but you have an inheritance that's never going to collapse. And he leads you into your inheritance, incorruptible. And it is protected, and it's preserved. Nothing's going to damage it. And it's there for you. And every element is kept intact. Jesus said, I go away to prepare a place for you. Maybe that's part of the background of the inheritance of the Christian. And it's there, secured in heaven. And it's yours. And you can discover, therefore, in Peter what he is saying about the Christian. Oh, he talks about a lot about the Christian. You've been redeemed with precious blood. You've been redeemed with precious blood. You haven't got trillions of gold and silver that's going to help you to get into heaven. The way to get into heaven you've already got. You've believed in the death of the Lord Jesus Christ, and his precious blood has redeemed you. Of course, he has captured so much of the Old Testament in those words. And when he talks to you about the fact that you are a royal priesthood, you are a royal priesthood, he has captured the flavour of the Old Testament. But he's saying something that's very wonderful. A priesthood, or to be a priest, which you are a priest. It meant that you listen to God. God you can listen to. And as God talks to you, he will tell you need to love people, help people, care for people. So the priest becomes a person who listens to God and takes the love of God to the people. That's you. And it says that way you'll bring many people away from the way that's wrong, that's damaging, and you bring them back to God. If you want to know the law of the priesthood of the Old Testament, then look at the last book of the Old Testament in the 2nd chapter, and you'll see about the covenant God made with the priesthood of Levi. And that priesthood of Levi is yours and mine. We're the royal priesthood. We're the holy nation. We are the people who are precious. Old translation, calls it peculiar, but distinctive, unusual, but real. And we are that nation, we are that people, we are that priest. And that's a thrust that you find not only in Hebrews, but in the opening parts of Peter. Peter is a book that I think, like Ephesians, you need to read every day until you feel the character of the book coming into your hearts. When you come to the 2nd Peter, you realize it hasn't been written in the same delicate way in which the first one has been written. The first one seems to have been written with a great deal of emotional thought. Now Peter is dealing with a practical issue. The kind of suffering he was anticipating in the first book is now taking place. People are now suffering for their faith, losing their jobs for their faith, losing their income for their faith, losing some of their goods for their faith. Life has become difficult. And I suppose some losing their life for their faith. The Christian church at that time is now under attack. Nero hasn't made life easy for them. And although his reign, negative reign, was only for a short time because he lost his job and committed suicide, there was a time in which the people who wanted to be like Nero out and about in the regions made life difficult for the Christians. He could make difficulty for the Christians in Rome. Many of them he rounded up, and we know what happened to them in the arena. Died a martyr's death. But in the regions it was spreading throughout, and in this letter we see what happens to Christians under persecution, under attack, when things go wrong, when powerful nations take over less powerful nations, when people are being killed and slaughtered, when I've lost my mother or my father, or I'm the only child left, and all the rest of the family have been killed. And how do I survive? And what does the Christian community do? What does the Christian fellowship do? And how does it help? And how does it overcome that period of persecution? That's your second letter. Oh, it tells you that you can add to your faith, and you can add to love, and you can add to grace, and you can add to patience, and you can add to a whole qualities of virtues. Some people say to me, what is the greatest gift that God gives to Christians? How does he make them rich? I say he wants to make them rich in love and virtues. He doesn't want to make them rich in their pocket. That might happen. But I tell you this, if God makes you rich as a Christian in any way at all, you as a Christian have the joyful responsibility of helping a lot more people. You're here to help. But most of us are not made rich, not made mega rich. But even if you only have a small amount of riches, you're there to help. Sometimes they can be small things like this lovely bunch of flowers that my wife and I was given to. Wasn't that nice for somebody to come around? And because they knew that Annabelle's father's been poorly, my wife's father has been poorly, and he's 101 and he's ready for glory. But we've been going through a difficult time. They decided to bring Annabelle these lovely flowers. Wasn't that lovely? That's a help. People can help each other, and that's wonderful. So I want you to see these. Now, when you come to Jude, that looks as if it was written much earlier than 2 Peter. And there's elements in Jude that Peter has taken. That's why I think 2 Peter was written in a rush, whereas 1 Peter was written over a period of time, thinking through what he was saying. That's one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons. When I read 2 Peter as I studied Jude as a child, I found it a very difficult book. Small book, only 1 chapter. I got confused. He's saying, I want to talk to you about the common faith. And then he said, but no, I've got to talk to you about the problem there is in false teaching in the church. That's a lot of the letter, the Pilgrim letter of this one. And slowly I began to realize, no, I think he got it right. We have to preach the gospel. Sometimes we have to say some things are going wrong in the Christian community. And he was forthright, and he used these pictures from the Old Testament to demonstrate what he is saying. And then he comes up at the end with the fact that we need to be kept in the love of God. If you want to be safe from error, from wrong, from not being what we should be, keep yourself in the love of God. And I'm pleased that he finishes that, keep yourself in the love of God, as a benediction to you. Keep yourself in the love of God. If there's a sphere that you want to be kept into, predominantly, as your minister will tell you so often, as your church leaders will tell you so often, as your elders will tell you so often, keep yourself in the love of God. This is the boy and his Bible speaking. The next talk's going to be on the letters of John and maybe the Revelation at the same time. Thank you.